In the early 1900s, in a quiet town in Kentucky, America, something strange began to happen. A man, completely ordinary, with no medical training at all, but in his sleep, he began answering questions he should have never known. And that man's name was Edgar Cayce. Most people don't believe in predictions. Not really. Because predicting the future is supposed to be impossible. And yet, there was a man who didn't just make guesses. He gave answers. Specific ones. Detailed ones. And sometimes, they were right. His name was Edgar Cayce. He wasn't a scientist. He wasn't a trained doctor. In fact, he lived a quiet, ordinary life. Until something strange started happening. He could fall asleep, and while unconscious, he would begin to speak. Not dreams, not random thoughts. Answers. People would ask him questions about illness, about the future, about things he had no way of knowing. And while asleep, he responded, calmly, clearly, as if the answers were already there. This is where things became difficult to ignore. He gave medical diagnoses without ever seeing the patient. In some cases, he described conditions that doctors had missed and suggested treatments that later worked. People traveled long distances just to ask him questions while he slept. And many left believing he knew things he shouldn't. But his readings didn't stop at medicine. He began speaking about the earth itself. He warned about changes to climate, to land, to oceans. He suggested that parts of the earth would shift, that coastlines would change, that natural disasters would increase. Today, some people look back and see patterns. Others see coincidence. Then came one of his most controversial claims. He spoke about Atlantis, not as a myth, but as a real civilization, advanced, powerful, lost. He claimed parts of it would be discovered again, specifically near the Bahamas. To this day, no confirmed evidence has been found, but the idea never disappeared. He also made statements about global shifts, economic instability, changing power structures. Some believe his words reflected early warnings of the Great Depression, but like many of his predictions, they were not always precise, and often they were understood only after events happened. And this is where everything changes, because not everything he said came true. Some predictions failed, some never happened, some were simply too vague. And that raises a difficult question. If someone is sometimes wrong, what does it mean when they are right? Despite the uncertainty, people kept listening, because even when they doubted, there was always something they couldn't explain. A detail that felt too accurate. A moment that felt too precise. And that was enough. Because this story isn't just about predictions. It's about us. Humans don't just want to know the future. We want certainty. We want control. And when something feels accurate, even once, we remember it, and we ignore everything else. So the question isn't, was he always right? He wasn't. The real question is, why did some of his answers feel impossible to ignore? Was it coincidence? Pattern recognition? Or something deeper we still don't understand? Because maybe the power of his story was never about prediction. It was about belief. The idea that the future can be known, that uncertainty can be removed. But maybe the future was never meant to be predicted, only experienced. So, was he really seeing the future? Or do we just remember the moments that came true and forget everything else? Because the truth is, he wasn't always right, but sometimes he was so accurate it was impossible to ignore. And maybe that's human nature. We want certainty. We want control. And when something feels real, even once, we believe it. So maybe this story was never about predictions. Maybe it was always about belief. And maybe the future was never written. It's something we experience.